Hello and welcome. I'm Arianna Pachati. In this very special episode, we are talking about sensitive souls, indigo children, and specifically soul ages and soul groups. So not only will you be able to identify what soul age or soul group you resonate with, but what soul age that your child resonates with. And this entire book that I'm reading out of is called Profound Healing for Indigo Children and Youth and Other Sensitive Souls by Remy Thiverge. I probably butchered his last name, but I will link the book below the episode. So I'm going to begin in chapter 3. I'm going to be reading directly out of the book and then talking to you about experience. Soul ages. To help you understand yourself, indigo children, and others more fully, let's explore the issue of soul ages. You don't need to believe in reincarnation or even in God for the concept of soul ages to be useful for you. Simply see them as different types of personalities, each having particular gifts and handicaps. No stage is better than another, just as being 4 years old is no better or worse than being 27 or 72. The issues discussed here are important to understand because indigos and other sensitive souls often remain stuck at the soul and personality levels. Both levels must be resolved for individuals to grow to their full potential. So we are here as parents, at least I am a parent, and my 5-year-old son, definitely a sensitive soul, a starseed child, very much related to indigo characteristics. It has been shown throughout time and throughout these studies and people who study this type of information that these souls struggle in specific areas. We can help them by practicing certain techniques and ways of healing so that they don't end up with long-term mental health issues, or they know how to resolve them themselves. So let's go into the first soul age, which is infant souls. So the main issue for infant souls to focus on is survival, how to stay alive. They literally learn how to survive in this world. They live with many fears. It's said that there's only a small percentage of infant souls in North America and other developed countries at this time. Most infant souls are reportedly born in countries around the equator, usually in tribal conditions. The reason for this is that it's easier to survive there, although they're faced with a variety of additional difficulties: hurricanes, poisonous snakes, malaria, and other diseases. These souls are still very closely connected to spirit, more so than other soul ages, but not more so than indigos. They resonate closely with the earth and have learned to live in profound harmony with nature. As with babies, infant souls live in the moment, not planning for the future, which is different than later soul ages. Infant souls tend to be very earthly and intuitive, but without a deep mental understanding of complexities of life. They focus on conformity of oneness with their group or tribe rather than on personal growth. They're deeply threatened if a member of the group wants to question or explore different beliefs and approaches. Think of when you've been insecure in your life. We tend to try to conform and want others to conform more at those times, just as infant souls do. That term is regression. You're going back to a younger age. You're going back to that younger soul level. There are 7 energy centers that run from the bottom of the spine to the top of the head, called chakras. The first center at the base of the spine is the root chakra. This relates to conformity with our clan, survival issues, connection with the earth. Many people that struggle with feelings of suicide have huge blockages or troubles with their root chakra. An infant soul age corresponds to that first chakra, the energy center at the base of the spine. So there's an exercise that I will read to you. You can take notes on this exercise and practice it in much lengthier sessions with yourself or with your child. This exercise is for infant souls, or for aspects of yourself that you find to be in the infant soul stage. So you can be in another age group, but have regression points Like, let's say your parents pull out this side of you and makes you angry, and then your response is much like when you were younger, and that response isn't a response you would give to other people. That's a form of a regression. This exercise right here. Think of old fears you may have of being alone or not having enough money, of being rejected, or of dying. Imagine light going into the seat of your soul, which is 6 inches above the top of your head. And this is going into the seat of your soul, and it's burning away any issues related to this at a soul level. And then you were to also imagine light going into the first chakra, into the base of the spine, and that you imagine it cleansing out old fears from there. So you're doing that at a cellular level in the DNA, transforming old ancestral fears. So you were to try those visualizations for 10 minutes. I know it seems like, oh, it's just a visualization. If placebo can cure cancer, you can change your life with a visualization. If you're a parent of an indigo, you can teach this to your child. If your child is too young to do the work, or unmotivated, or just kind of closed off to the healing work, you can imagine it for them. And again, you don't have to believe in God or spirit to do this. Some Buddhists, for example, they use the elementals. So they'll imagine rain coming down and washing things away, or sunshine coming into them. When you do this exercise, as well as the other ones mentioned, you can expect to feel lighter. Some people will not feel a change, even though the exercises are helpful for them, because they're not in touch with their own energy. If you've never practiced feeling energy, then I can understand why you might not feel much from that practice. Now, it's a matter of mindset, belief system, and openness. Okay. So let's move on to the next soul age, which are baby souls. So we had infant souls. Now we're going to baby souls. As with small children, the main issue that baby souls have to learn is to deal with discipline and order. Baby souls need the security of someone imposing a structure on them and telling them what to do. Both baby and infant souls have difficulty understanding abstract concepts and may have difficulty with school for that reason. They're more holistic and concrete rather than being able to think in abstract terms such as mathematics or science. We'll see later in the book, indigos are able to be abstract as well as having a strong holistic sense. That is very much my son. He can think in very abstract terms, but also very holistic, very nature-driven, very driven to the earth, not driven towards traditional schooling or authority figures, headbutts that completely. So, however, they do tend to be much more right-brained and creative than left brain, which specializes in linear thinking. As a result, some may have difficulty with traditional forms of schooling. Although baby souls are more sophisticated than infant souls, they still need to work at resolving many fears. Survival has mostly been worked out at this phase, and there's a beginning focus on self-development. It's like a 2-year-old child walking away from a parent and standing up for himself while at the same time staying close by and trying to follow the rules. Baby souls see anyone who's different from them as being bad. Whether it's a different religion or another culture, among other things, there's an in-group as opposed to an out-group. As we all know, elementary school children often act out these issues by attacking children who are different from them. When we're younger, we briefly experience younger soul ages, and so do these children, even if they're old souls or indigos are acting out baby soul mentality and behavior for a number of years. It's basically like going through lessons that we've learned in previous lifetimes until we eventually grow to the level of our capacity. As an example of that, an old soul goes through phases through each life of acting like an infant, a baby, young soul, mature soul, before growing into its capacity as an old soul. The pattern of in and out crowds results in many indigos getting picked on and bullied on at school because many of them dress or behave differently from others. As another example, the author's son was teased at school in the early grades for being too intelligent, so this child shut down his mental capacity for years because of that. Many people are advanced souls, but stick to security as if they were infant and baby souls because of unresolved childhood fears and unresolved karma, as well as carrying unresolved issues at the DNA level from previous generations. As an example, no, I won't even go into that example. Infant and baby souls are prepared to follow any strong, confident leader who gives them a black and white view of life. We can hope that they'll follow positive leaders, although they just as easily could follow ones with evil intent, such as Hitler, who tell them that they're fighting for God and eliminating evil. Tricksters, right? Infant and baby souls are extremely dogmatic, and with the leaders mentioned above, can be quite brutal with those who disagree with them or are different from them. They have the highest regard for their leaders. Political and religious leaders can easily manipulate populations that are made up of large proportions of infant and baby souls because the infant and baby souls' fears and their willingness to sacrifice their lives for eternal glory through suicide bombings or other means. Interestingly, the point has been raised that some indigos are also willing to sacrifice their lives through such means for what they see as the greater good. So it's going to be very, very important for us as a society and individuals to view life and ourselves and healing separate from what's happening politically or religiously. And I know that might upset some people if you've always followed religion, etc., etc. Really start asking questions that you've always wanted to ask. Using an example closer to the home arena, when a child gets in trouble with an authority figure, baby soul parents will get their child to obey the authority figure rather than support their child's concerns, even when the child is in the right. Older souls can do this as well if they've learned to be in fear of authority because they're traumatized or because they're depleted due to issues such as illness or exhaustion. Baby souls are unable to see how they're part of the problem. When they're in difficulty, it's far easier to blame the other side or take a drug or attack than to deal with one's own feelings and imperfections. Young souls, to be discussed next, are also unable to take full responsibility for their actions. In the author's view, if we want to help humanity move forward in this way, it's important for us to take steps to help the poorest of the poor all over the world, not just in our own communities. As Mother Teresa said, some can work directly with these people, others can give them money, and others can pray for the cause. Here is an exercise for baby souls. Imagine the light going into the seat of the soul 6 inches above the head. And this light is here to transform judgment and the need to control others that stem from past lives. Also, do so in your DNA to resolve your ancestors' patterns of judgment and control by having light go in through the top of your head and into the core of each cell, every cell in the body, transforming insecurities at the DNA level that you've picked up from your ancestors, resulting in the need for somebody else to manage your life for you rather than being your own authority. Imagine light going between you and other people, clearing away your judgment towards them and their judgment towards you. And we can really remember ancestral trauma being passed down and understand that by looking at water and studying how long water stores memory, because if water is storing memory for up to 4 generations, the traumas and pains that your ancestors 4 generations ago went through will still be stored within your DNA. Proven. Next soul group are young souls. Young souls are testing their capacity in the world. They're spreading their wings and want to see how far they can get. They want action. They don't bother with emotions or spirit, their own or literally anybody else's. Young souls may use anger, lies, manipulation to get their own way. From their perspective, the ends justify the means when it comes to advancing their personal goals. Because their central goal is to see how much they can get out of life, they often gravitate towards positions of power. Lawyers, business people, executives, politicians, they are young souls. Of course, many in those professions are also advanced souls who are doing good work in the world. Young souls represent the most competitive soul age and that which is least positively connected to God or to other people. If someone gets run over by a young soul, the latter is likely to say, it's their own fault, they shouldn't have been in the way. Long-term consequences resulting from acquiring power and money, such as damage to one's health or marriage or the environment, are not important to young souls. The goal is to make things happen, and the necessities of life are simply irrelevant. Because young souls are so goal-oriented, they can be very industrious and tireless. One of the aspects of young souls is that they don't let themselves be pushed around, as other soul ages do, except for indigos, they also refuse to be pushed around. If more of us were in our power, the earth would be in a far better shape than it is, because we would be willing to stand up and say no to the destructive behavior of those in charge. Instead of the vast majority simply going along as the rich get richer and the middle class struggles more and more to get by as the earth becomes more and more devastated, where do you fit into this? How do you handle it when your indigo child complains that some things are really stupid or destructive? Do you encourage them to conform or to take steps to help the world become a better place? I grew up as a child, in my childhood, it was the norm and it was the parenting style to obey authority and to have that fear. And I find it very difficult to break those patterns when raising my child, even though I have this level of awareness. I know those ways are not beneficial for long-term success. They're not. It's proven. But I also find it very difficult. I stop myself in those moments, and then I find it difficult to switch that energy into something more positive. So then I either isolate or go into a state of fight, flight, or freeze. I freeze until I know the answer, until I know what direction to take, the right reaction to have. So this book is just really helpful. Many of you who are reading this book have a fear of being in your power. The result is that not only the world, but your indigo child may push you around as well. Your indigo is here not to push you around, but to teach you about being in your power. So don't let your indigo children or starseed child push you around, but also don't be that controlling authority figure that puts only fear into them and dims their light and dims their shine and really closes the doors to their gifts or being able to express to you and to open up to you and feel safe around you, and most importantly, to trust you. When you're over there beating the crap out of your child, they might listen to you, but they don't trust you. And your relationship in adulthood will probably be not great. And so here's an exercise for young souls. You will have the light go into the seat of the soul, right? 6 inches above the head. And it clears away old karma, old negative deeds that we did when we were young souls, creating damage to ourselves and others. Do this at the DNA level too. Have light go through the top of your head and enter every cell of the body and into your DNA. You have to visualize it. Energy flows where intention goes. If your intention and your visualization is on the light going into every cell, the energy is going to follow. Have light go in and transform our guilt and our shame for having treated others so badly in the past. Assist your indigo to heal this way as well. Let's move on to mature souls. As with middle-aged people, mature souls ask the big question about life. Why am I here? Does God exist? What happens after I die? The issues of money, power, fame, they're no longer quite as important as they were during the young soul stage, and these issues would become even less so for old souls. Working hard to get ahead is no longer seen as being important. Mature souls are more likely to be focused on relationships rather than their own personal needs and concerns. There's more of a focus on helping others at this soul age as well as at later ones. Mature souls have more capacity to consider other people's point of views than when they were younger souls. Their emotions, relationships are the main focus of their lives. It's no longer easy to control others to accomplish their goals because guilt and shame now interfere. Mature souls feel bad if they focus only on their own well-being while ignoring the needs of others. Many people who are mature or old souls function at the young soul level during early adulthood and then move into their soul capacity as they go into their 40s and beyond. This is because we become more fully connected with our soul energetically once we hit midlife. And at this point, we often do a life review and ask the bigger questions. Mature souls also tend to go through a great deal of drama in their relationships, trying to have things their way, rather than being at peace with others. This applies even with their spouse, trying to control them, to get them to behave in a way that they want, rather than allowing them to be who they are. This either ends up in power struggles for years, or in their partners withdrawing from each other. It often ends up in divorce. The author spent years working with clients who argued a great deal about issues such as dirty socks on the floor. Most were interested in winning rather than just having a happy life. When the author got tired of it and asked Spirit to send him clients who really wanted to heal, his clientele changed. So here is an exercise for mature souls. You are to imagine like you're like a little kitten all caught up in a ball of twine, but that you're also caught up in there with another kitten. This is perhaps your child, your mate, or your boss. This image represents the entanglements between you and another person when in the mature soul age. Have light go into the seat of your soul, 6 inches above your head, to transform the entanglements between you and others. Transform that from your aura as well. 1 meter, so about 3 feet all around you is your aura, and you can clear that at a DNA level. If you're entangled with a particular individual, you imagine clearing the space between you and the other person. Ask that the negative energies be transformed from them as well. Send them love and light through your heart center, and let them know at the soul level that you'd like to be at peace and in a win-win relationship with them. So there's 3 action parts in there. You're asking, you're sending, and you're letting. Okay? Now, assist your indigo child to transform these issues as well. It makes no difference if your child is very young. These issues can be carried from birth and before that. So doing this exercise on occasion will help you to become clearer, more spacious, and loving in your relationships. Transforming issues at the infant, baby, mature, and younger soul levels will result in old souls and indigos being able to function more fully at their own levels of development, rather than continuing to be limited by unresolved issues from younger levels of development, such as old fears and shame, and focusing solely on their own needs to the detriment of others. So it's a collective raise in vibration. Moving to old souls. Almost everyone who reads this book is an old soul or an indigo, and for that reason, they'll talk about old souls first. As with infant and baby souls, old souls are very connected with spirit, although they're more complex and have a far greater mental understanding and perspective than do infant and baby souls. Old souls are generally very sensitive, although mostly not in their power. One of the aspects of this is that many old souls are highly sensitive to other people's energies and can easily be thrown off base by that. When the author speaks of sensitive souls other than indigos in this book, you can think of them as being mostly old souls. Old souls are able to have a broad perspective of everyone else's position because they've been there. While most of us have had the tendency to lose our perspective when caught up in a situation, old souls can see so many sides of an issue that it can sometimes be very difficult for some of them to determine right from wrong or good guys versus bad guys. They can be immobilized because they see so many options and are unsure about which one to take. Old souls take much longer to reach their potential than younger souls because they're much more complex. For example, younger souls are generally fully mature by 21 years of age. They know where they're going and what they want to accomplish, In comparison, old souls are coming into their own age at 35 if the conditions are right. Many old souls focus inward more than on accomplishing a great deal in the world. One of the factors affecting old souls is that many have chosen very difficult situations to be born into, and they're very focused on healing the resulting wounds. Many are overwhelmed by these circumstances, such as issues as historical trauma, shame, and guilt, and they can't find a way to resolve them. In addition, they carry a great deal of shame, guilt, self-hatred from having done so many negative things in previous lifetimes to achieve their goals. One consideration is that many of the helping practitioners who work with old souls, they don't know how to help them heal from such difficulties as shame and self-hatred because they haven't been there or haven't learned to resolve those issues thoroughly themselves. Many old souls never reach their capacity for a variety of other reasons, such as choosing to withdraw and blame, following false gurus, staying on paths that aren't helpful for them, substance abuse, avoid taking full responsibility, etc. This makes it very easy for young souls to control the world around old souls, as it is with other soul ages except for indigos. Another factor affecting old souls is that because they feel incapable of or unwilling to meet their own material needs, many female old souls choose relationships with young souls who are focused on making a great deal of money, thus providing their wives with a sense of security. However, the young soul husband ignores his wife's needs and emotions, and she eventually ends up being dissatisfied with the relationship. Many of these female old souls end up shutting down, getting sick or depressed, or divorcing their partner. Some who remain in the relationship use it as a foundation for security and personal growth and accept the fact that the spousal relationship is simply not fulfilling. Those who end up separating will hopefully choose more wisely next time and select a partner who matches their own soul development. However, that is often not the case. Love, passion, and our need for security can make us blind. Old souls can often get stuck trying to come to terms with issues they've already overcome in a younger soul age, such as fears relating to money and survival, which they learned as infant souls. The universe uses money, as well as other issues, health and relationships, to test us and to push us to grow. One of the main goals at the old soul age is to focus on non-attachment, not getting caught up in the drama and intensity of life, and place less emphasis on material needs than was done at earlier stages. As a result of their non-attachment, some old souls may seem standoffish. However, this attitude tends to result in more inner peace. Old souls' self-esteem is often quite low, in part because others see them as being deficient for seemingly not being involved in mastering life, and because they compare their own lives to the goals of a materialistic society. The issues is that they have not yet learned to fully love and surrender their lives to the universe. The old rules of creating wealth through a great deal of effort no longer work at their phase of development, and they haven't yet fully come into their spiritual capacity of being able to manifest with ease. Many old souls explore a variety of religions and teachings before settling down to one or a combination they prefer. Old souls have a strong focus towards inner growth and spirit. Many have little interest in creating change in the world. However, they can accomplish a great deal with relatively little effort when they figure out some of the laws of the universe, such as the law of attraction. They're more likely to succeed in doing this after they resolve certain issues, such as a sense of unworthiness that prevents this law from working for them. Many old souls have little interest in money or fame and may become prominent only for the sake of teaching others. An exercise for old souls: attachment to some things and rejection of others is a big issue for old souls to resolve. Instead of grasping and pushing things away, the goal is to be in a place of peace and non-attachment while also having a positive impact in the world. We need to learn to take steps in the world while surrendering the results to spirit, leaving it to spirit to look after us. As Christ said in the Sermon on the Mount, be as the birds and the lilies in the field. Be at peace and you'll be looked after. Imagine coming to a place of peace at all levels rather than the old push and pull, acceptance and surrender. Remember the line from Alcoholics Anonymous that says that we need to accept the things we cannot change and strive to resolve the ones we can and have the wisdom to know the difference. I don't know who wrote it that way, but okay. Ask Spirit to help you to surrender your ego because its related fears, greed, distrust, and need for praise prevent us from reaching our full potential. At this level and the soul levels above it, we need to learn to say, thy will versus mine. Ask for guidance to bring your gifts into the world in the way that they will be most beneficial. Help your indigo to do this exercise. Now let's move on to the next soul age, which is indigos. I think it's useful. It's useful to think of the gradual evolution of soul ages as moving towards a higher vibration, just as there are lower musical notes and higher pitched notes. For example, an old soul is of a higher vibration and is more sensitive than a younger soul. In the same way as indigo is of a higher vibration and is more sensitive than an old soul. However, the implication is that old souls have incarnated on Earth over time. Some psychics suggest that indigos have had little experience on Earth and don't quite know how to be here because their incarnational journeys have mostly been in other galaxies. They can easily feel that they don't belong in the families that they're in because they're different from the other family members. At the very least, most are more evolved than their parents or siblings. As the author noted earlier, the four main characteristics of indigos is that they're very intelligent, very intuitive, sensitive, and powerful. There's a great deal of variation from one indigo to the next in terms of these capacities, and it would be a mistake to see them as all being very similar to each other. The author believes that it's only when they integrate their great talents within themselves and learn to work with others in the same general direction, such as helping with the environment, that indigos will be able to have a powerful positive impact in the world. However, they can certainly find personal fulfillment by following their own path and doing what feels right. There hasn't been a lot of evidence of indigos breaking down very many walls successfully in the schooling system and in corporations. But I want to say now that we're in 2022, that is changing. It is changing before our eyes. Hop on board with it. Be with the change. Don't fall behind and get stuck behind. These old traditional schooling systems literally suck. They are actual prisons for little people. Don't do it. I found an amazing outdoors program for my son. It's like a forest school, and he has nature as his classroom. Literally amazing. Anyways. Regretfully, these alternative approaches are often vulnerable to funding costs because they cover more than just the basic 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, which you'll find in a basic-ass school. We, the current generation of helpers, as well as those in authority, including their parents, need to learn how to harness the gifts indigos bring if we're serious about wanting to help them create a better world. And I'm serious about it. At this time, most school systems in the developed world are in financial crisis because there are fewer and fewer students, partly because of fewer number of children and also because so many children and indigos today are homeschooled or go to alternative schools. Hey! As the old generation of school boards is replaced, hallelujah, new school board members will hopefully realize the importance of thinking more collaboratively to invite the creative gifts of some of their teachers, parents, and students in order to keep more indigos and other sensitive souls in traditional schools. For now, most, if not all, mainstream school systems are still dominated by a top-down type of thinking. For example, in the region where the author lives in Vancouver, the school district, only 31% of Aboriginal youth completed high school until just a few years ago. For males, it was a little over 80% completing high school. The rate is a little better for girls. Percentage applies only to the youth who remain in high school until grade 12 that don't drop out before. Indigos are usually born into families where at least one parent is an old soul. If only one of the parents is an old soul, the author's experience is that it's usually the mother. These parents generally fit into what has been termed cultural creatives, which means that one or both parents have either strongly focused. They're either strongly focused on feminism, environmental movement, or personal growth, or creating a social change. This includes the growing number of people who focus on methods of personal growth such as meditation and yoga. Look at my son, for example. I'm a single mom. He's only had me. Since I was pregnant and had him, I have only focused on self-development. I've only focused on yoga and meditation. I've literally handed my life over to yoga, and I said, this is what I'm doing now. I'm going to change, and I did. And it benefits him greatly. Many old souls are not able to heal using such methods as healing visualizations until they're in their mid-30s, whereas indigos, because of their greater connection with their spirit, can do so from an early age. So do this with your child. You can even get like a little flashlight that changes colors, like red or purple or blue. And when you can like guide them through a bedtime story and put the different colors on them, like imagine this purple light coming into you and blah, blah, blah. Just make shit up and get their minds into that state. Most indigos that the author sees have a high healing ability. They have psychic gifts. They can see auras, connection with past lives. I noticed with my son, who's a starseed, very, very telepathic. When I was meditating on him before he was born, I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant. I visualized him in my head about what he looked like when he was probably about 30 years old, which is an incredible visualization. I can still see it today. But we communicated with just our thoughts in the meditation. I remember messaging my friend and saying, I did the meditation, but I couldn't speak to him. Like we couldn't get words out to each other. It was just through thoughts. And she laughed and thought it was so funny because how alien-like, right? Like how starseed-like of that child. And also indigos, I know it says in here somewhere, indigos also may feel so telepathic that they don't feel the need to even begin speaking until they're 3 or 4. So now we have these parents that have these 2-year-olds or almost 3-year-olds, and they're like, my kid isn't speaking. Oh my gosh, they have autism. Oh my gosh, we need medication. This doctor, this judgment, that Instagram post, that Facebook post, 100 comments of people telling them that they're wrong, what they're doing, and they need this, they need that. How about you just fucking sit there and chill and appreciate your child is alive? And it really makes us view our own perspectives, because as an outsider looking in on parenthood, we think, oh, they need to do X, Y, and Z to have this result. And we are know-it-alls when it comes to other people's parenting techniques. We are know-it-alls. But then when you realize that you are the parent, perspective changes a whole lot. So be careful of the way you judge other parents now before you become a parent, because that karma too will come to show you the truth. So be careful what you practice. Most indigos are very independent. In addition, many indigos have what we might call righteous anger. They're often intolerant towards injustice, and they want to see more fairness in their lives and in the world. However, some prefer to avoid pain and do not wish to see the suffering in the world. They can be intolerant or harsh with their feedback to others. Others are painfully affected by negative energy around them and withdraw. So some become involved with drugs as a way of reaching a high or coping with pain, or they become aggressive or suicidal. These are sensitive souls. We have to change the way we respond and react and parent if we want to see this generation continue to live out their lives to their full capacity. My generation, I have 3 of my closest friends that committed suicide, not even diving into the 10s and the 20s and 30s of people that have died from overdoses. Majority of my friends are now dead. So maybe we do change up our parenting styles, not blaming the parents, but saying like, maybe there's something else that we can do. Agreed? Agreed. Exercise for indigo children. At this point, it would be helpful for you to scan your results. Never mind. What you want to do, it's because you don't have this book. It would be pointless for me to read that. You want to go ahead and scan your body and determine which areas are your weaker points, okay? And then practice resolving those issues that block you from having your gifts, right? These weak points are these false beliefs that block you from being this gifted, sensitive child, right? Identifying those and then work on resolving those and then build on related strengths using the exercises provided throughout the book. So you can use visualizations to help them. Look out for another podcast that goes into more practices because I'll be making more episodes on this. And then the last two soul ages are crystal children and rainbow children. I just want to hit them quickly. I don't want to stay on these too long. Indigos are sometimes mistakenly called crystal children, and the crystals are also being mistakenly called indigos. For those of you who've seen the Indigo movie from 2005, that would actually be a crystal child, not an indigo. The movie and the Indigo movie presented in February 2006 both focused almost totally on the more evolved, higher functioning indigos. Unlike indigos, many of whom have an angry edge, crystal children have a very calm temperament. They're very sensitive, as are indigos, although unconditional love and compassion are essential parts of their being. Because of their peaceful energy, they draw other people to them. They also have great healing abilities. Indigos operate mostly from their 6th chakra point. Crystals operate more fully from their 7th or crown chakra point. So indigos are here, crystal children up here. They're also said to communicate telepathically. So a lot of these children, this is where it says, they won't start to speak until they're 3 or 4 years of age. When we think about crystal children, we think about indigo children, you're like, but you said your kid's a starseed. My kid is a starseed, which is more related to, you could say, extraterrestrial beings or have incarnated in other galaxies a lot more than the souls that incarnate here, other soul ages. So they have that indigo side of them that has that temperament, that has that anger, that has that edge, that has those psychic gifts and abilities. Starseeds, because you can think of them as not as earthly beings, so that whole trait of them not speaking might fall into that category. They reportedly have a strong need to help other people in difficulty. For example, parents tell the author when they're upset, the crystal children will help to heal them. And then rainbow children. The author has had no experience with these children so far. They sometimes can be referred to as super psychic, star, or millennium children, star children. It's said that they can use their strong will and unlimited energy to help build the new world. The literature that focuses on these children states that they have been rainbow children on Earth since the year 2000, although they may not have yet awakened to their full potential. Unlike crystals, who open up only to those who are responsive to them, rainbows are unconditionally loving to all. Rainbow kids are said to have extremely strong wills, high energy, embrace life with enthusiasm, and are creative and passionate. The predicted influx of rainbow children on Earth will be between 2010 and 2030, as compared to between 1990 and 2010 for crystal children. So we'll pause here. Most of them have been born in Russia for rainbow children, but as I said, they've been referred to as super psychic, star, or millennium children. People will also label starseeds as rainbow children. It can be very confusing when you get into the higher vibration soul ages because we've not yet experienced them throughout their whole lives here on Earth. So a lot of people you will hear, they will group together starseeds, indigos, crystal children, rainbow children, and even earth angels and light workers. They group them all into like this same vibration almost because they all operate at such high vibration. Those are the extremely sensitive souls that are going to have a lot of gifts and also feel like they're being pulled into two separate worlds when they're here on Earth. The world of that they like to be in, and then the world that we've already been in, and they're trying to transform that, but yet there's like this judgment and all of this energy, and they can pick up on the judgment even though people aren't saying it, etc., etc., etc. So we're going to stop our learning lesson here for the day. And the next episode, we're going to go into the soul groups as well as internalized difficulties and external difficulties that indigos deal with. And again, you can use those concepts, visualizations, and healing techniques for other soul groups, not just the indigos. You can use it for the star seeds and for the rainbow children and crystal children. You can use it for earth angels and light workers, and you can tailor them and add different things into them. Please don't give up on your healing ever. Know that it's a forever process, and we are just discovering the gifts and strength and the power of our minds. The more we do this, the more we stay consistent with it, the bigger the doors we get to open later on. I hope that this was helpful and informative. If you have any questions, please reach out to me directly at thepalmbeachyogi@gmail.com or go to my website, www.thepalmbeachyogi.com. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I will see you in the next episode. Namaste.